atrocity was committed with Capone's signature weapon, the Thompson submachine gun. First produced in 1920, it became so common a sight, it was nicknamed the Chicago typewriter.
The starting position is much...
To find out more about the Tommy gun, engineer Josh Dortzbach has come to meet Lieutenant Keith Hafer. He believes that he is in possession of the actual weapons used in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Well, these two weapons were recovered by the Berrien County Sheriff's Department following the murder of a police officer. And as part of that investigation, the sheriff at that time conducted a raid, and they recovered a steamer trunk full of firearms. They were subsequently tested and matched to projectiles and cartridge cases used at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
This gun bears all the hallmarks of criminal use. Back in the 1920s, the serial number was filed off, making the weapon untraceable. This gun is one of the pieces of engineering which helped shape Capone's Chicago.
It's a recoil-operated, fully automatic weapon. When I load and cock this weapon, I would be pulling the bolt to the rear, compressing this recoil spring. When I pull the trigger to fire the weapon, the bolt is allowed to fly forward or slide forward.
So if I grab a cartridge, one of these rounds is stripped out of the magazine and is placed here, and the bolt comes through, strikes the round,
pushes it into the chamber, the firing pin would strike the primer, firing the cartridge, correct. And then the bolt would move to the rear.
Meanwhile, this recoil spring is set, receives the bolt, and continues to move back and forth.
That is correct.
So as long as my hand or my finger is still on the trigger, and this is flush, the bolt continues to move back and forth.
It would continue to fire until you run out of bullets or release the trigger.
Fully loaded, the Tommy gun weighs 20 pounds. It's capable of firing at a rate of 800 rounds per minute. It gave a gunman access to overwhelming firepower.
This was one of the earliest submachine guns. What this combined was a tremendous amount of firepower, a lot of ammunition, in a reasonably portable weapon.
Capone's willingness to use this deadly piece of technology created a world where disputes would be resolved with lethal efficiency.
We're standing right along the site of the north wall in nearly the proximate location where the shooting started. The men were ordered to get up from their chairs. They were lined up, ordered to put their hands on the wall, and were assassinated execution style. All mayhem and chaos broke loose.
Lieutenant Hafer wants to recreate what happened that day with the actual guns used in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The two police officers have fired 90 rounds, the same number of bullets believed to have been fired during the massacre. It's easy to see what harm those shots would have inflicted on a human body.
Unbelievable. Those guns created so much damage. Think of those 7 men standing in front of that wall at such close range. How terrible.
Capone escaped justice because his part in the crime was never proven. But what he hadn't taken into account was that the brutality of the murders would horrify Chicago and the rest of the nation. The authorities had to be seen to be cracking down on the gangs. Capone may have been enjoying the high life in Chicago, but his final days in the city would be spent in anything but luxury.